Metronome. If you don't practice with a metronome, you're doing it wrong. Okay? I don't even think it's possible to practice without a metronome. I mean, you could sit in a room and play forever and ever. That's fine, but that's not what practicing is. I mean, practicing is like a deliberate attempt to try to improve yourself, which means it feels like work. It doesn't feel just like you're having a good time. So a metronome is the first step to this. There's several things I need to talk about in terms of the metronome. One, it's the only thing that can keep you in check, right? When you're practicing, you may not know if you're playing something correctly or not, a rhythm or whatever, but a metronome will tell you. I mean, it's just constant. It's like, okay, here's where the beat is. You're either with the beat or you're not with the beat, right? And if you're not with the beat, you probably need to go slower or smaller or something like that in order to be with the beat. If you can't practice with the metronome, you have bad rhythm. Sorry, it's just how that works. I mean, a metronome is just sort of trying to teach you an internal pulse eventually. But if you can't just keep time with the metronome, there's some work to be done. There are two other things about a metronome that I want to mention. The first is a metronome it's a tangible way for you to set a goal, right? If you're looking at a piece of music and you can play it at 80, but it says to play it at 100, well, that's like a real goal. And if you work towards it and you get to 100 and it's clean and it feels good, you actually accomplish your goal. Like playing fast or playing slow are just relative terms. So an actual number is super helpful. The other thing about a metronome is that it helps you keep track. It's sort of like a log for practicing. I mean, if you're practicing scales or practicing etudes, if you're proper, you can keep track of it. Like, I can play this scale today at 70. I can play, if I work on it, I can maybe get the scale up to 75 by the end of a practice session, or 80, or whatever it is. And if you keep track of it over a long period of time, you can see how far you've come, right? Progress is weird in the sense that you almost never feel like you're making progress until you look in hindsight. I know for me, it's like, I'm just going to go practice, but I didn't realize how much better I got until like a year later. If you want to tell if you're actually practicing, ask yourself this: when you're done practicing, what did you actually accomplish? Are you actually able to do something better at the end of a practice session that you couldn't do at the beginning of a practice session? If the answer is yes, then you practiced. Okay, I would advise you to try to be as efficient as possible so you can make the most amount of progress with the least amount of time. But if you find yourself sort of at the end the same, then you know that you just sat and played in a room. Practice with the metronome. If you don't practice with the metronome, you're doing it wrong.